Show.
Back on the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Joining us on the Bobby B's hotline. Monday QB edition. DOM AMORE is one of the best at quarterback in our show when he comes on from the Hartford Current. And Dom, wanted to get you on, talk about Uconn football and beating Merrimack. And all right, so they didn't look so good against Maryland. They look really good against Merrimack. Your thoughts now going into the week with Duke?
Well, you know, they played the toughest opponent they're going to play all year, and they've played the easiest opponent that they're going to play all year, Rob. So I don't know how much we can really take from either one of those games, but I do think that you can only play the teams in front of you. They scheduled Merrimack for a reason, and that reason was to get a win and some confidence under their belt. They did that. So I think this week we'll start to see maybe get a better read on exactly what this team is. And, you know, to me, those 6 straight home games that follow Duke, that's the season. You know, that's their conference, those 6 games. And if they do well in those 6 games, they've got a good season. So how they sort things out this week against a team that is certainly a level above Uconn, but maybe not as good as they were last year. Maybe Uconn's a little bit better. Maybe it could be a little more competitive game.
I thought on Saturday, if you look at the box score and you look at Joe Fagnano's numbers, they'll jump out at you immediately. But I think the best part of his game on Saturday was running the read pass option. I have not seen that ran even close to as good as he ran it on Saturday at this university in 8 years. Now you have Nick Evers, who was on the shelf because he was banged up a little bit against Maryland. He started against Maryland, did not play against Merrimack. Joe or Nick, what say you, DOM AMORE?
Well, I just don't think it's fair to judge one guy against Maryland and the other guy against Merrimack. You are correct in what you saw from Joe and the RPOs, but keep in mind that, you know, it's a question of which wide open receiver he was gonna read, because, you know, that team couldn't cover anybody. I mean, so I don't know that I would necessarily judge it on that. I think if Nick is healthy, he should start Saturday. But you've learned something about Joe Fagnano, and if Nick Evers doesn't play well, then you go right back. I think you go back to Joe. Or if Nick can't play on Saturday and you start Joe and he plays anywhere near as well as he did last week, then maybe you got to think about leaving him there. So we've learned something about the guy who was QB2. We still have yet to learn enough about QB1 to make a decision whether we should switch. So I think if Nick Evers is healthy, he starts Saturday would be my guess. But, you know, obviously I think the leash might be a little bit different.
Have we figured out who the feature back should be? It looked like we were running 4 or 5 guys out there most of the day. Robinson and Brown look to be the strongest, but I still like Cam Edwards an awful lot. I mean, what do you do against Duke? Do you continue to do that, or was it just Merrimack couldn't stop them?
Well, I mean, no, I obviously Merrimack couldn't stop them. I don't think that they had the size to match up with UConn's offensive line. Which obviously Duke probably will. So I don't know that you'll have those kinds of holes again. But I would keep, you know, rotating fresh backs in and out. They look like they could all be productive. I thought, you know, I was disappointed against Maryland where Edwards ran the ball well the first carry, 16 yards. You didn't really go back to him again after that. I really think he's the toughest guy to bring down that they have. He and Victor Rosa are both very tough to bring down. But I think if the offense, you know, what's the old Bill Parcells saying? All running backs look the same when there are no holes to run through. I mean, if the offensive line plays well, they can play all their backs and they'll all look good. And if the offensive line can't block, then nobody's going to be able to get any yards.
My favorite player on the team right now is Skylar Bell. Number one, the receiver. Not only is he a great pass catcher, great route runner, he runs after the catch. And I don't know if you noticed the block that he had on Cam Edwards' big touchdown run, but he had a sustained block for about 5 full seconds in the open field. I think this kid is spectacular. Now, am I seeing the right thing, or am I just seeing against Merrimack?
No, you're seeing the right things. I mean, he had 100 and something yards against Maryland and had the only touchdown there, I believe. He could certainly get open. He's a football player. He's a good football player. who is a wide receiver, and he could do. I agree with you. I think he could do a lot of things we haven't seen at that position for a while from Uconn. I think all of their wide receivers, in fact, are an upgrade. I mean, obviously, they're not going to have as much of a time getting open against other games as they did there. But you have to feel when Uconn plays some of these group of 5 opponents at home that are going to make or break the season, that guys like Skylar Bell might be a level above some of those opponents. So I think he's a weapon and I think he's going to be a weapon all year. I think that's a great get for Uconn, and it's going to be a question of which quarterback does the best job at delivering him the ball, and then some of the others.
I thought we looked pretty good on punts as well. TJ Sheffield seems like he was a good transfer to UConn.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these guys, I really think they're a better team than last year. I know that the Maryland game would not indicate it, but I think, if they had switched, if they had played Merrimack first and kind of got that under their belt, Maryland might have been a little more competitive. I'm not saying they would have won. But I think, a game like last week, the purpose of it is to kind of get some confidence, right? Get something under your belt. They've done that. Now, let's see where they are this week. But to me, for UConn, the season starts next week against Florida Atlantic at home. Those are the 6 games where if UConn can get 4, even if they if they win this week, it opens up a whole new set of hopes and dreams for the rest of the season. But if they could get 4 of those 6 at home, and that would give them 5, and I think they could get one or 2 of those 3 on the road to end the season. You got something there. So I think that the realistic goals, are within reach for this team right now.
Talking to DOM AMORE from the Hartford Courant. I talked to David Benedict, athletic director at UConn, before the game on Saturday, just talking to him about the Big 12, and he put out the statement before the game, I think it was on Friday, that talks have stopped between Big 12 and UConn for now, but I'm wondering if you would know what would kick those talks back up, because I just got a feeling we're going to be back in this conversation either next offseason or even before that.
Well, it's probably not going to it's probably not going to restart anytime soon, but I think it will restart eventually. I've used the phrase inevitable, just not imminent for UConn. I think UConn will get in a bigger conference, and I think, I think the shoe that's got to drop is going to be what happens with the ACC, and specifically the efforts of schools like Florida State and Clemson to get out. I don't think those schools are trying to get out of the ACC to go to the Big 12, and play Central Florida and Cincinnati. I think they're trying to get into the SEC or the Big 10. If that happens, then I think UConn could have some leverage. They could have. This is one of the reasons, by the way, why Brett Yormark wants to get UConn in that conference, because he figures, if the ACC starts to fall apart, why should, let's not give them the lifeline of adding UConn. So I think that would be the scenario for UConn, is what happens with these efforts of schools to get out of the ACC. If the ACC is looking, UConn would obviously be, to me, I think is the best option left on the board for them. If not, and I think UConn could then hold some leverage to make a deal, because the one thing I didn't like about what I was hearing, I don't like UConn having to wait 7 years and plow millions into its football program before they can get in and be a full partner. UConn needs that money; they need it now. And with what UConn brings to the table, that certainly I don't think the Big 12 has, they should be able to get it sooner than later. So, I think things will eventually work out for UConn. It's just not going to happen tomorrow.
All right,
I've been saying after 10 years.
DOM AMORE joining us from the Hartford Courant. First series win for the Yankees since they beat Colorado back in August 23rd. And so they'd been putting along 9-11 in their last 20. They still lead by a half game, but they got some big dogs coming up here the rest of the way. They got Kansas City, Boston, Seattle. Then a little bit easy against Oakland, but then they finished with Baltimore, Pittsburgh. They should be able to take 2 out of 3 right at the end of the season. Your thoughts on the Yankees, not just winning the division, but this kind of 500 record they've had for the last 70 games. What kind of identity do the Yankees have right now?
I've never seen a season quite like this one where they looked like the '98 Yankees for 2.5 months, and then they looked like the '62 Mets for a month and a half, and now they've been kind of mediocre the last few weeks, and they've lost a bunch of series to teams that are below 500, and they have the best record in baseball against teams that are above 500. So I don't necessarily know what to make of them. I mean, their closer has 11 blown saves. So if he only had, let's say, 5, which would still not be a great year, they'd have the best record in baseball by plenty. So it's hard to know what to make of them. Except I think the one thing I see from them right now is that with Schmidt back and with Heel not having a serious injury, he's back. They've got 6 healthy starters, guys who are throwing the ball pretty well. And if you take 2 of those guys and you put them in the bullpen, especially if they could pitch multiple inning stints, maybe every other day, that could really make a difference in a postseason series. Which is why I was a little taken aback by Nestor Cortez's comments when he was used in relief the other day. And he needs to get on board with that. They could win its championship if you put, let's say, Heel and Cortez or Schmidt and Cortez in the bullpen. That could make a difference. I think Holmes sometimes gets it back if you give him a little bit of a break. So maybe if he doesn't pitch for a few days, he could maybe get some of the power back in that arm and some of his command back. I mean, and then that would be the best case scenario of all. But I really think with the Yankees, they got to fix them. If they fix their bullpen, I think they can be as good as anybody. And if they don't, they'll be out quickly. The thing is, we know they have a lot of flaws. You watch a team every day, you're going to see all the flaws. But they basically have the same record as all the best teams. So all those teams obviously have flaws too, maybe just not the same flaws.
I thought Luis Gil looked great in the first game in this series, coming off of IL. He went through one hitter and got taken out. I think we're in the 7th or 8th inning, gets lifted there. Yep. Before that game in Wrigley Field, Shota Managa had a no-hitter, gets lifted in the 7th, finished up in the 8th and 9th for a combined no-hitter. That was the topic of conversation on Thursday's show. Dom, I want to get your take on combined no-hitters and seeing all these combined no-hitters. What does it mean for you? Do you like it? Do you dislike it in the major leagues right now?
I don't like it. I mean, well, not that I don't like it, but I just don't think they mean anything. If you remember a couple of years ago, there was a big to-do in Hartford because somebody bunted to break up what would have been a combined no-hitter in a Double-A game.
Right.
I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, it's a 3-0 game. You're trying to get on base and win it, and you got to worry about a combined no-hitter. So to me, combined no-hitters. Does anybody remember them?
No.
I mean, there's only one combined no-hitter in Major League history that I remember, and you guys know which one it is, right?
Gibbs?
No, I don't remember.
It's the six-man no-hitter against the Yankees that Houston pitched about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That's the only one that you remember. You remember, guys who pitch complete. A no-hitter is a complete game with no hits. So no, I mean, as far as combined no-hitters, yeah, I mean, they're fun, they're fine. You want to watch it, it's great. But I don't think they have any, for posterity's sake, I don't think they have anywhere near the value of a real no-hitter, what I would consider a real no-hitter.
All right, your thoughts?
Fair enough?
Your thoughts on Cashman saying that he trusts Verdugo's defense, which I do not, over Jason Dominguez. That's why he's saying he's not calling that kid up. The kid's dominating the minor leagues, doesn't need to do anything. Their season's going to come to a close here soon. Your thoughts on that rationale, not bringing that stud up and letting Verdugo keep not running the bases well and doing all those other shenanigans?
Yeah, you know what? And I think he's coming up because I think I saw on Twitter that they have a nameplate for him at Yankee Stadium tonight, so that usually means that he's on his way.
Dun, dun, dun. Hey, you just gave away your inside sources there.
Yeah, I love
the
it.
Nameplate,
well,
nice.
It's on social media. I believe Gary Phillips tweeted that out, Daily News beat guy. No, but you know what, Rob, and I didn't even know. I can't keep track of all these silly rules that have gone in. I didn't even know about this deal where if somebody is a rookie of the year, you get an extra sandwich draft pick, right?
I didn't know that either.
That's kind of a big deal.
Yep.
Really, that's a big get. So if it's a matter of preserving his rookie status for next year so that you're on the board for that type of reward, then I don't necessarily mind it because, they're going to be in the playoffs. And all you got to do is just wait until roughly now to call him up so that he doesn't surpass 130 at-bats. So if that's what they did for that purpose, I can't really fault Cashman for that. If you're telling me that you're not bringing him up because of what you've seen from Verdugo, then that's a little bit silly, and I don't know if that's necessarily what he meant to say or what he really believes. I just think, if you didn't have that Rookie of the Year thing, then I think Dominguez would have been up a couple of weeks ago, if not sooner, and they would have DFA'd maybe Verdugo. But they're trying to preserve his rookie status because there's a possibility they could get a pretty high draft pick, and we know in this day and age that's a valuable asset. So I think they're doing the right thing. Maybe they're just not explaining it the right way.
Dom, you got any faith in the Mets right now? Tied with the Braves for the wild card, but they do have 6 with the Phillies remaining, and then I think their final series with the Brew Crew, who are playing great baseball. Any faith in the Mets to make the playoffs and actually win a series?
I do. You got to like a team that's hot. You got to like a team that's got that's getting good pitching. At this time of year, when a lot of teams are have tired arms and their pitching's fading, the Mets pitching is better. You got to like a team that has a real superstar leading the way, which they have obviously in Lindor, an MVP candidate. And you got to like a team that's playing without really any pressure. Nothing was expected of them, and here they are in the middle of the playoff race. So I don't think there's any reason that they can't win these series. I mean, you got to talk about 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 2 out of 3, and get that spot. So yeah, I do have faith in them. I think they're a team that could go a long way if they do get in because they've got nothing to lose. There's no pressure on them. You think about enormous pressure on the Dodgers and the Phillies, or even San Diego in the playoffs, or the Brewers, because they've been there a bunch of times and their championship window is closing. If they don't start winning soon, win one soon. Dodgers obviously have a lot invested to try to win now, but the Mets, they were thinking about next year anyway. So now there's no pressure on them. So I think the intangibles are very much with the Mets, and they're hot right now, and they've got at least some of everyone's got a lot of flaws. There are no 100-win teams out there, and I think the Mets could be the Diamondbacks of this year.
Everything is great when we got Dom Amore on. Thank you so much, Dom. Appreciate your time, buddy, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, guys, you got it anytime, man.
Dom Amore, Hartford Current. Read all of his great stuff online as well. We'll take a quick break, come back to First Dibs question of the day.
84.